Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 2 of the Build podcast. And in this episode, we'll be looking at Terminal, the Mac's way of getting into the world of command line. Now, I truly think that Terminal is an indispensable build tool for me because I am using Terminal at the background whenever I'm coding and developing, whether it is running some web server or looking at some logs or continuously compiling some files that I'm coding or even checking the versioning of the file. The terminal is in the background running for some reason or the other. So let's get started on terminal and see what it can do. In order to access the terminal, what we will do is press Command space and we will type in terminal, enter. And when we do that, we will see that black screen, or maybe by default it will be white color screen will pop up. This is basically the text-based way of doing stuff in your computer. At first, I used to be a little bit apprehensive when I started using Terminal about 10 or 15 years ago, but right now it is truly an indispensable tool. So let's get started by typing in some commands. For example, date or cal for calendar. We can also do some interesting stuff and query about the hardware. For example, uname will get us Darwin, the kernel name. And what about arch for architecture? This will get us the architecture name of the machine we're using. And let us get into some commands about the internet and the websites we visit. Before that, sometimes when we keep on typing, the texts get a bit lower. So in order to clear the screen, you can just press clear and it goes right on the top. Let's try NSLOOKUP and a website name, maybe Google. This will give us the IP addresses. Let's try ping google.com. This will tell us every time there's a ping how long it is taken. 11 milliseconds, 10 milliseconds, 15 milliseconds. Now in terminal, whenever we are running a process like this and we want to exit that process, we will press Ctrl C and it will exit the process. Let's get into two more commands about accessing websites and knowing more information. One of them that I like to do is traceroute. Let's say google.com once again. And it took 7 hops to reach google.com. It's pretty interesting information. And lastly, I will do whois. Let's say revision3.com. And it will tell us some information about the website itself. For example, some domain or some servers, technical contact. Interesting stuff about finding out more about websites. Now, since we are in the command line, we often press a bunch of commands and we want to get to the beginning. In order to access the beginning, we do Control A and it will go right to the beginning. In order to go right to the end, we can do Control E. And of course, we can also use the up arrows to access our previous commands. Like you can see all the NSLOOKUP and the arch and uname we did. And the down arrows to get the commands after that. So let me do a clear once again. Oops. Clear. So since this is about the build podcast, I thought of doing some file manipulations and folder stuff by building a little project. And we will be building this tiny little resistor color codes. While we are building it, maybe we can also learn about the color codes at the same time. So let's get back here. And the very first command we will do is pwdo, which is print working directory, to know the directory we are in. In this case, we are in users/Sayani, my name. And next we will do ls, which will list all the files and folders inside this. I would like to create a folder for the resistors inside my desktop. And in order to access the desktop, I'll do cd, which is change directory, and in this case I'll just press DES and then tab. The terminal will immediately detect which one I want to access depending on the closest words, for example desktop in this case. And when I press enter and I do pwd once again, I am inside the desktop right now. Let's do an ls and see what's inside the desktop. There is nothing yet. So I would like to open up the folder for desktop. For that I'll do open dot, and it will open up the Finder right over here. So let's do the terminal on the left side, and subsequently you'll be able to see what's happening graphically, visually on the right side. I think for me as a visual person, or even for a beginner, this is extremely helpful. So the next thing we will do is create some files. In order to create some files, we will first make a folder for the project. To do a folder, we will do mkdir and we will call the folder resistors. Enter. And you will immediately see that I have a resistor folder right here. Let's go inside the resistor folder. I'll do cdre and then just tab because there's only one folder there. And when I do pwd, I am inside the desktop, inside the resistors folder. So why don't I go in here as well? Of course, when I do ls, the directory is completely empty. Let me create some files inside. In order to do that, I'll use the command touch. So touch index.html will create the HTML file here. I think I will also need a CSS file, so touch style.css. And usually for any web project we will also use a script file, so touch script.js. So you just saw how easily I created the folders and files just with the terminal, some commands. Okay, for my resistor project, I do not think I need the script.js. It is pretty much a static project. So in this case, I will just remove them. rm script, and it is removed. So let me now go inside the index.html and create some codes. So in order to do that, we will use Pico, which is one of the editors found in the command line. Pico index.html. Okay, it is obviously pretty empty. I have prepared some codes previously, a very simple one. And let's see, and I will paste it right here. So that's, and it already says here Control X to exit, so I'll do that. Yes. Save. So now I can open up index.html, index, and let's have a look how it is. Pretty okay, just the name. So let's now go ahead and I'm gonna copy the table here. So once again, I will just use my up arrows and go pico index.html, and inside here, maybe after the heading, I will put in the table, and I'll Control X, yes, save. And once again, I'll go to my browser and refresh it. Okay, so I have the table here. So obviously it's not designed and it doesn't have some colors, so in this case I will go to my style.css. I have some pre-written codes already, and I will go to Pico. In this case, in this time I'll go to style.css. Enter. And okay, I've put in the code, save, yes. Okay, so let me go back to the browser and just make sure it's there. Okay, good. So I have the register table here. It's a simple table with some colors. Now I would like to add some picture here, and I want to get this picture from the internet. So I got this picture from the Wikipedia page about the resistors. So let me copy this URL. I'll come back to my terminal, and this time I'll use this command wget. Now usually you will have to install the wget command, and then I will paste in, and let's see what happens. Once you do that, notice here that the file gets downloaded right to the folder with wget. Let me clear it. Now, of course, I would like to rename this file into a much simpler one. In order to do that, we can use this command mv, which can be used to move a file or also rename the file. I will do 32 and tab, which is the original file, and then I'll do r.jpg to say that this is the new file name. And notice my file is renamed as r.jpg. Now I would like to go inside index.html and add in my picture right after this. So I'll just put img src equals to r.jpg. Okay, Control X, yes, enter. And when I come to the browser, let me refresh it. Okay, there you go, I have my picture here. So that's how we created file and manipulated them just through the command line interface using the terminal. Another useful thing that I find is file permissions and manipulating them. For example, if I do ls-al, it will show me all the permissions for a particular file or a particular folder. So R is for read, W is for write, and the next one is execute. If it's a hyphen, it means it is not available for you. You cannot execute this file. So the first three is RW-, which is for me, myself. The next three is for the group, and the last three is for everyone. So let's do some permission changes. In order to do that, I will go one level up once again inside my desktop. So for that, I will do cd ... And when I do pwd, it tells me that I am inside the desktop. So in order to do this, we will use this command called chmod. I will definitely link this to the show notes. If we look at the current if we do ls-al and if we do resistors, we will see that it will display all the commands here. If we do al in resistors, we will see that we have read, write, and execute permission. So let me clear it once again. ls-al, inside resistors I have read, write, and execute. What if I do not want it to read? So I will just go here and I will make sure it is exactly the same, and it is 344, the code. So I will go back here and I'll do chmod. Firstly, let me do ls-al resistors, and this will show you that, hey, I can read the folder resistors and see what are the permissions of the folders and files inside the folder resistor. Now I will do chmod. I will paste in the code. Let me do that again. Chmod, and this time I do not want to read, so I'll do 344, and I will do that to resistors. That means I am not allowing the user to read what is inside resistors. And now when I do ls-al, it will say permission denied because I do not have any permission to read it. Now what if I use this command sudo ls-al resistors, and then it will ask me for a password. So sudo gives you access to all the files and folders, and then it will ask you for the password. And when you do that, now it will give you all the information that you want. So let me do ls-al resistors once again. Permission denied. What if you want to add sudo and then add the exact command that you put in the previous command? You just have to do sudo and then bang bang, which is exclamation exclamation, and then enter. You will have the same result as sudo and then typing it in. So let me change back the permission for chmod. I'll just click this and it is 744. So let me go back to my terminal. I will do chmod 744 resistors. And now when I do ls-al resistors, okay, I am having the access once again so that I can read it. So those were some of the common command line codes that I use. Of course, there are tons of them, and let me go into some of the interesting resources that I found. So the very first one is also a video by the Hacktip people. It's on Linux terminal, very similar to what I showed. So go and have a look at this video. The second one that I wanted to show was a bar camp that I attended, had Keith Bennett showing us many of the commands for productivity using command line. And as you can see that the commands are very complicated and stuff. Okay, and the next one I want to show is an ebook which is pretty exhaustive in order to learn how to do command line crash course, and it's by Zed Shah. It was pretty recent, just a few months ago, so I decided to include this link as well. And next we have the cheat sheet, which is also linked to this book. Last two I have some funny links. So there's this xkcd command, that cartoon that says make me a sandwich, and then this guy said make it yourself, and then he says sudo make me a sandwich, and then this guy follows. So I'm very sure after using sudo now you will know why the sudo works. And finally, this is a slideshow that was linked by Jeff Atwood just a week ago, and I thought this was really humorous. So in his slide number 23, he says, one of my favorite business model suggestions for web entrepreneurs is to find an old Unix command that hasn't been implemented on the web and fix that. And then when we go to the next slide, he kind of lists down the common ones and gives an equivalent web startup or a web company that we are very much familiar with. All right. And finally, I would love to give an inspiration link each episode, and that is called a build link. And the build link for this episode is applinus.com/download. This is a digital magazine for web developers and designers. I am finding it really fascinating. It's chock full of good resources here. So if you have an iPad or if you want to download just the PDF, go ahead and have a look. I'm really enjoying reading Applinus. Finally, thanks for watching, and if you have any comments or feedback, you can go to build-podcast.com. Thank you so much.